think that covers all the bases. That was perfect. I covered a lot of things I needed.
Felt good to cry.
Yeah, I could tell. Or I could tell, like, you know...
I haven't cried. I can't remember the last time I cried like that.
It's like releasing, huh?
Yeah, that's therapy. And everyone said, that, go cry, you need to cry. It's so therapeutic. I'm like, fuck you. You know, I ain't gonna fucking cry, toughen up.
Oh, wait. Hour 23, that's fine.
You toss me one of those pillows. I feel like I need to be holding something.
Yeah. You just gotta record this. Just as the camera's far away and there's that fucking cricket out
You can close the door, it's just gonna be hot.
there. Yeah, it's fine. What is your name?
Brendan Mathews.
How do you spell that?
Brendan. Mathews with 1 T. Mathews.
That's correct. What is your favorite color?
Green. Before Cheer Force. It's always been green. Winter green. Turned into Kelly green at Cheer Force.
Why?
Why green? I don't know actually. I think I liked the flavor of spearmint my whole life. And then they came out with winter green gum. It was like the hybrid of spearmint. So that's when green became a favorite. That's all I can remember.
You don't have to
Detail.
don't look at you don't have to look at the camera.
Okay.
What is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life? You ask these kids these questions all the time.
Yeah. I'm making a compilation.
What is the meaning of life?
Well, let's go before that. Where does happiness come from?
Within.
Dude, you're like the third person that has said that.
It's the truth. It is.
I'm
Because if you're not happy with yourself, you can't be happy. What's that one saying? External validation is not a prerequisite for self-appreciation.
Something like that.
Yeah, like you don't need people to tell you about you for you to be happy. You gotta tell yourself. So I think it comes from within.
I agree. Then, what's the meaning of life?
To be happy. I mean, go in depth on that?
No, that is just as deep as you want. I don't have to at all. I'm just trying to knock you off guard.
It's working. It's working. I don't know, I guess for the most part, I just feel like the meaning of life is to be celebrated. And celebrations involve happiness.
I think that I like that answer. I mean, I don't think there's like a right answer.
I agree.
You know, I think there's a bunch of versions, but like it's all around the same thing. How long have you been at Cheer Force for?
I will be at Cheer Force 10 seasons starting May of this coming season. So 2020.
What does Nfinity mean to you?
Family. I think it's gonna be.
To better paint the picture of Nfinity, what does Nfinity mean to the gym?
To the gym, possibility. It means that dreams do come true. It means that it's all for something. These summit teams, these young kids, like to be able to actually see, people say they want to be a millionaire, but they see millionaires, but without knowing their story. And on our gym, I feel like being a millionaire is like being on Nfinity. And these kids can see the dream coming true for a lot of people from all over the world, teammates from all over the place, getting the opportunity to be a part of Nfinity, working really hard and reaping the benefits of it. It happens right in front of the kids' eyes.
Give a star. Leave it 1 star. This is your first year coaching Nfinity, right?
It was currently in my second.
Currently in your second.
Yeah.
Go explain that. Go into how you felt about that.
One of the hardest transitions of my life.
What was?
Becoming a head coach for Nfinity for the first year, because these people are my family. They're my best friends. They're the people that we wine and dine with. They're the people that we go to the beach with, the movies with, we stay the night with, we stay extra after competitions with, we drive to and from with. And then to have to learn how to delegate instruction to people that are your family as their coach, it's my job to know how to separate business from being business or personal. And I do feel like a lot of our family on Nfinity had a hard time doing that, and I did too. I had a really hard time because I would make plans with some of them, and then they would condition too much for mistakes, and then we wouldn't have plans anymore after practice. Because of temporary resentment, and it was tough. It was tough taking direction from me, but at the same time, it was hard for me to learn how to give direction without tension. And so it took a while, probably halfway through the season, before I learned how to be the best coach for that team. And I still feel like I'm learning. I still don't feel like I have it right. It was tough.
Go into, or could you go into, I forgot to ask you, how long have you been on Nfinity?
I've been an active athlete on that team forever. Since the beginning, actually, the very first year when it was called Opals, before it was changed to Nfinity. So I think that was 2009 until 2017. 2017 was the last year that I was actually on the floor helping them get to Worlds, but physically could not compete at Worlds because of just that and blackout. It was just too much. So yeah, a long time, and probably for the rest of my life. As long as I'm physically walking.
What are some of your favorite memories of being on Nfinity, all inclusive?
Oh, there's so many. There are so many. My God, there are so many. Hating you was one of them.
Hating me?
Oh yeah, I remember Ted and I after Champions League, we were supposed to be back. We got back right in the nick of time from LA, and we walked right into practice. I didn't have my cheer shoes on, and I was pissed. And we were stunting the whole time. You and Sydney kept making fun of me, calling me grandpa, this and the other, and I just was getting so frustrated. And then Anna didn't care. I had to tumble no matter what. My ankles were gonna break. Man, there were times where I remember them and I hated them, but then that never compares to the amount of times that I loved them. I loved when we hid from Anna in the gym. When she got to practice, like 10 minutes late, she had assumed that we should have already been warming up, and we all hid in the gym, and she walked in and she was livid. Livid. I thought we were all gonna die. We just thought it was funny, but it was not funny to her. I remember that. That was a lot of fun. But I mean, the moment I will never forget is the second they said in second place cheer. And I thought it was going to be forced again. I thought we were going to fall short again. And the next word was athletics. But it felt like the longest pause of my entire life. And I was holding Bree Nance, and I told her, I was like, "You're my lucky charm." And I knew she was my lucky charm because she was pulling staples out of her head on the back of the floor at practice. I was like, "You are weird, I love you." And I remember telling her that day, and then I told her that one more time before they announced that we were the world champions in 2015. And I can relive that moment. I could cry right now. I could relive that moment for the absolute rest of my life, vividly, like it just happened yesterday, or like it could happen again tomorrow. But that memory is based on family. That year, that team, those people. I'll never forget that year for the rest of my life. I feel like I know every single practice plan for the entire season. It was remarkable. It was worth it.
Did you feel any pressure as you stepped into the head coaching position?
No, I felt prepared. I felt prepared, meaning knowledge-wise. Like I always heard from Ray, you know, knowledge is power. And I never started to understand that until I was challenged, like in 2016 with Blackout at NCAA and having that 3-hour meeting with Amy, whoever the heck, judge back at NCAA, to tell me so many things that I didn't even know. And that's when I started watching bases feet versus flyers. And what I learned from that took me so much further. And I connect those two things because they happen in such short periods of time, like coming off of Action Sphere, hearing Ray say that, then that season, hearing it again, when I learned that, and then I got to studying more and more and more and more and more. And when I was approached by Jenny and Casey and Nicole to make that transition, I felt prepared. I felt like Blackout was in a wonderful position with the help of, you know, ATL, on it, Andrew, you know, Juan, Tori, and I felt prepared in a sense that I knew how to teach everything that needed to be done, including how to be a teammate. But what I did not know was how to coach your family, your best friends, adults, people with jobs and college and bills and, you know, the craziest excuses for everything. I was prepared for almost everything. But I learned a valuable lesson this past season, and I'm still continuing to grow that seed.
When was the first time you met Kenrod?
The first time I met Kenrod was through Snapchat. Through Caden's Snapchat. Maybe it was a Snapchat, might have been a picture on his phone. I thought he was so handsome. I remember that. It was like the pose he was in or something, and Caden started laughing. Not that like I was trying to hit on him or anything. It was, they were already home, and I was not there yet. I was still out of town, I believe, and they were out in San Diego, and I was coming home. And he sent me a picture of them together. That's what it was. Because you're catching me off guard because you didn't let me plan it. So the story's fluctuating a bit, but I'm pretty sure this is it now. But personally, it was at my house. I met him at my home first because when he moved here with Caucasian, who's the white one, they were already at my house. Lance and I let them stay with us. So what, this past summer, I believe, maybe, yeah, this past summer.
Any memories off the top of your head over that summer or throughout the season?
With Kenrod?
Yeah.
I'm doing my lips like this, but the cigarette's over here, but really it should be over here. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
he used
better.
to always just joke. He was a jokester. I remember DiGiorno. They wouldn't, him and, when I say they, it's this tripod, this trifecta of Caden, Caucasian, and Kenrod. They are just like inseparable. And they have a relationship like I have with my best friend Elvis, where like nobody can get a word in edgewise. I want to laugh, but I want to understand why I'm laughing, and they just say these words to each other. Like instead of saying goodbye, they're like DiGiorno or Topanga. The way, and they spoke in code. I feel like that's what it was. They spoke in code to one another, and I enjoyed so much listening to them converse because I just didn't understand, and my brain processes so fast. P.S. He doesn't smoke cigarettes. It was just like this character that he is all the time. It's comedy. He's either making jokes or he's hungry. He's always hungry. The kid is a walking human garbage disposal. Middle of practice. Hey, do you ever granola bar? Have good. Kenrod, man. Those are some vivid memories right there.
How was coaching him?
The easiest thing in the world. Coachable kids are the ones that not only make changes at all costs, whether the result is beneficial or not, meaning that whether, like if it's a stunt change, he'll try it. Just because it's a change from a coach doesn't mean that it's going to hit the next time. He is open to trying new things, and when things didn't work out, or if he felt like things weren't right, he would ask about it, talk about it. Because the second a kid says, I don't know, they just strip a coach of all the power they have, of all the knowledge that they know. When you say, I don't know, I can't help you. Coaching Kenrod was a piece of cake. Extremely coachable.
Yeah, going into Palm Springs that week, or even Showdown, if you will. What was going on then with the team, and then with, like, in your head with the team, about the team?
Stress. It's Palm Springs week. We always end up having an incredible team every year, and getting them to be cohesive is an extremely valuable thing to have. You can have all the talent in the world, and we had every up and down you can think of. Whether it be an injury, then the next thing would be a fight. The next thing would be somebody quit. And the next thing would be a fight. And it would be an injury. Then somebody would quit. And Spirit Sports is normally where Nfinity goes for their first biggest shot at their paid bid to Worlds, because they don't get many opportunities, because it's also a team with college students on it, and so financially we don't get to give them the opportunity to travel as much. So Spirit Sports every year for Nfinity kind of tends to feel the same. We feel prepared, but we always feel like we're missing something. So we just go cram, practice. But I mean, I guess it felt kind of normal. That's kind of how it usually is. That's kind of how it usually is. Yeah.
The last practice before Palm Springs, one I think he got landed on that practice, and then they were trying to you guys are trying to figure out heights with like the lifts or something.
Yeah, so because of Marshall's back, poor thing, we had to make adjustments to the standing tumbling. And it was a wall of 2 doubles coming from the back to the front on the middle mats. And so there was one on center. That was Marshall. And without one on center, it was just kind of open, and it didn't help with the lift. We had to transition in the center that needed 3 boys there. So without the one in the middle, it's not that we couldn't have done something else. I mean, we got it. It was that we wanted to do that. And so we moved Christian, I believe, to center panel. And in doing so, it's my fault. I had assumed, dealing with the caliber of athletes, look at me, I'm trying to not put it on the kids. I had assumed that the caliber of athletes like this, I wouldn't have to throw the section full out before a full out, because it was like in the beginning. Second thing they did, baskets that. I guess third, semi-fulls, baskets that. And yeah, the spacing, we stacked Marshall on center at the front of the floor where he normally needed to be. But Marshall was so used to 2 to double land and have one body behind him. So when we put Marshall behind Kenrod, who's already a house of a body, then putting Christian's 2 to double that was actually naturally longer in length than Marshall's, I didn't think about that. Mm-hmm. And Christian landed on Kenrod. Well, it might have been Marshall, one of the two. One of the boulders at the front of the floor. And when that happened, Christian got hurt. And when anything happens in the first week of February, injury-wise, you are either going to push through or you are going to be out, because it is every single weekend we compete or travel and compete, and it's just, it ended up being very, very, very difficult the next couple of weeks with Christian's injury and the soon-to-be passing of our king. So that sucked. I do remember that. I forgot about that. That was like the last practice before we left. And I felt, and like I told you, like I was already having a hard time trying to be the leader that Nfinity needed as their head coach. And just when I thought I had it right, after a 2-hour phone call with Marshall about the animosity amongst the teammates and myself and us together at each other, he kept it real with me, and he helped me become a better coach for the team. And I changed, and I thought I was making things right and being more cohesive with Anna and Nicole and Tori and Andrew as well. And just when I was peeking my head out of the hole, I got smashed right back down, because I felt it. I felt the team's disbelief in me yet again, because of how high the tension was. It's Spirit Sports Week. I told you it's our biggest, best bet at a paid bid to Worlds, and they have to have a paid bid. They broke. And just when I thought the sun was coming out, it poured rain once again, with no time left, no opportunities left. Like, time is precious, man.
I guess before we get into Palm Springs, we'll skip over it. And I don't know, fuck it, we'll go in order. Palm Springs, day one.
Palm Springs day one was day one was stressful per usual, because I thought it would be just a really, really good idea to compete again. And it ended up being as I had imagined. But it was great representation. Nfinity did a phenomenal job. It was not perfect by any means, but it was more than enough to set them in a gorgeous position on day one, being in first place by a little bit. And yeah, and then everything changed.
What happened?
After Nfinity performed, I sat at the coach's box, which is right in front of the judge's stand, which is that beautiful bird's eye view. And Kaden was next to me, and Jen was next to me, and Anna was next to me. And I think it was like either Frenzy or Wrath were going soon. I don't recall exactly, but we were watching one of our teams. We were sitting there, and I do remember Anna saying that Kenrod called her and was just really flustered, I guess. He called her and was flustered and trying to find out where he was, because I recall he was taking Celeste back to her hotel as a favor. Her parents were there. At the hotel after they competed. They went back to the hotel, and Celeste wanted to stay, I believe, and Kenrod was like, "Hey, girl, no big deal." Typical Kenrod, the most generous human being alive, jumped to every opportunity to help. And he called it, but I guess it was just like a bad conversation. Like, it didn't make sense, and not that any of us kind of blew it off. It was more like, oh, he'll call back. He didn't, so we called back a bunch, over and over and over again. Just gotta see where he is. I don't think we had to meet or anything. It's just we wanted to know where he was. And so then we called Celeste and told her to keep trying, because this was after she was already dropped off. He had headed 15 minutes east to take her home, which was 15 minutes. Thanks, Cuddy. 15 minutes in the opposite direction of his home in Hemet. And so it had been too long. It had been too long. The timestamps didn't connect from the phone call of him trying to contact Anna and then hearing from Celeste and then us still not hearing from Kenrod Cuddy. So I looked over at Caden and I was like, dude, like, if you want, we can just go, let's just go, we can go look for him. And the weather was kind of crappy. It was really windy, it was rainy, and I just remember, us calling back and somebody picked up the phone and it was a woman and she had said something, I can't exactly remember, but I just feel like she had said something along the lines that he was fine, like he hurt his hand or something, and then the call just disconnected. And we kept calling back and it just would ring, it would ring, and then something wasn't right. And so I looked over at Katie and we were like, all right, we're going. So Shannon, who's one of the coaches at the gym, ended up finding a website that pulled up all the accidents on the freeway at that time to kind of give Caden and myself some guidance of where we were going. Competition, and we drove about. And we got to the first couple of stops and whatever accident was there was cleared. And then we saw helicopters and started wondering, kind of like the worst, pretty much. And the helicopters just kept going. So then we were like, okay, freak out accident, we're fine. This is more so, I guess, what I was thinking that he was thinking too, Caden, in the car with me. And we kept driving west on the 10, I believe it is. I don't know what freeway it is, I don't know, I'm trying. Through Palm Springs, and we saw his car. And his car was a wreck. It was definitely undrivable. And I pulled over really fast. It was freezing outside. I remember that because we were in shirt clothes. Like, we didn't have much on. We got out of the car and we approached the police officer quickly and was like, oh, wait, where's Kenrod? And he just said, he's fine. They took him to the hospital just right up the street. Like, nothing's bad. Like, everything's okay. And I guess at that point we believed him. But I don't know if it's the law that maybe you're just not allowed to release that sort of information. But he eased our minds a bit by telling us that he was at a hospital, but at the same sense, like, eased our minds that it wasn't catastrophic. But still, you know, we were nervous, so we got in the car and we drove to the the hospital that he was taken to. We contacted Celeste and told her family as well, because her parents were driving up and down the freeway looking for Kenrod too. And because they felt, you know, a little responsible. And at no cost were they. Again, this was nobody's fault, you know. And so we kept it moving. We got to the hospital, which was it was a little small hospital, and got out of the car, went to the front door, locked, didn't make sense, walked around this entire building. It's raining, freezing, and we finally find an entry to triage, I believe, and we walked in and we went to the front desk and just asked her if James was brought here, and Kaden was quick, I'm family, like I need to see him. And so she didn't skip a beat. She was like, yep, just down the hall. And I, just thinking about it now, like the how casual everybody was makes me so mad. But I understand. I understand why. And so we go through the doors, down this hallway, and as we're walking, we're passing beds. Just rooms with beds in them, and they're just vacant. They're all vacant. And because of the person I am, I make a joke. I swear to God, if he has a burned hand and that is it, and he did not call us back, the second I see him, I'm going to punch him in the face. The rooms ended, and so did the hallway, and the only other way to go was left, and so we did, and there was Kenrod's family, his mom and his dad, and they were so quick. His dad was so quick to say, he's gone. Caden's world turned completely upside down. Caden's a big guy. It's as if he never had kneecaps. He fell straight to the floor. He collapsed. And I tried my best to break his fall, so I went down with him, and he just lost it. Screaming, just waiting for somebody to say that it's a lie, that it wasn't true. And I hated it. I hated it so much. I hated it so much because I didn't believe it. So in that moment, I hated it so much to see Caden like that because he's my family. We spent a long time there. And his parents are very religious. And I remember his dad was a very powerful voice. After an hour or so, telling Caden and myself to get up, like, be a man. He's with God. And I am not a religious person. But there was a sense of calamity in his voice and just the posture of his mom, of their acceptance of the news that they recently just discovered about their son. And I do know that the Bible teaches you that. I do know that the Bible teaches you that when it's your time, it is your time. And it is the responsibility of that family to accept God's choices. But not being religious, it is very difficult to not accept those choices. Especially when they are like him. When they are so easily coachable. When they are people like him that know every kid's name that comes in the gym on a Tuesday and Thursday within a week. There's not. To have somebody like him who's always hungry, somebody like him who's always laughing, who's always DiGiorno, who's always lighting a fake cigarette because it's just one more full out. People like that don't deserve to leave this life, because life is to be celebrated. It's a place of happiness. And people like him make people like me happy. People like him make it all worth it. And so after a while sitting there with his family, we're at this point, it is just silence. We're stunned. Caden is half black, half white, and I've never seen him so white. I didn't even recognize him. He lost his brother that day. He grew up with that guy. Caden and Caden grew up with that guy. That was not just their son, that was Jody's son. That was Maria's son. And I hated that day. Caden had his two best friends come from LA and drive over and sit with us. And it was around that time that Kenrod's family asked us if we wanted to see him. I had no idea that he was in the next room, laying on the bed, dead. That whole time he was right there next to us. We didn't go and see him because the doctor and his parents encouraged us that he was not going to look the same. And that was around the same time that we found out what actually happened to him. Which I hate. I mean, not only was his car hit, he was hit. Just after his car was hit. It was after his car was hit that he called Anna. He called Anna. That's his coach. He called his coach. Not just his parents, he called his coach. His family. His other mom. My mom. Anna. And then he got hit. He didn't just burn his hand, and he wasn't okay. And he was just right down that hall. Being 10 feet away from him and wanting so bad to be respectful and see him, but know that the last image that you want to remember somebody by would not want to be that one, you know? It would want to be all the things that I told you about that made me laugh so much. And I don't regret that we did not see him. I don't want to speak for Katie, but I do not regret not taking that last look at him.
That's what you said. You didn't regret anything.
After we left there, we took Celeste with us. And her parents drove behind us, but I just remember being this statue driving at 60 miles an hour, not a beat over 60 miles an hour. With my hands at 10 and 2, my elbows have never been so locked out. Stunned. Because I was driving away from where he was, and I was driving to where he should be. And I can see out of the corner of my eye, Caden, just motionless. As if that wasn't hard enough, we made it back to the convention center where most of the Spirit Sports staff stayed until midnight, I think it was. Not even past that, almost 1.
It was like 1.
That all stayed. And they reserved a room for us to be together. I did not know that's what I was walking into. I just wanted to be with the team. And I was with a bigger team than I thought we had. We had a lot of support. So when we arrived, seeing Caucasian next was just another stab right to the heart. because that was his brother. And I had to watch him be so sad. And then Sal was the next face I remember seeing. And he was so sad. You know, it's crazy that the things that you enjoy the most seem to last the least amount of time. But the things that you hate the most end up lasting the longest amount of time. I felt like I was in that hospital forever. But I remember hugging every person when I got back, and it felt like 3 minutes long to get through every person. I can't even remember past Sal, but I know that we all had a very, very strong moment when Katie and I got back. And of course, everybody deserved to know what exactly happened to our poor Kenny. And as I would never, ever put that on Caden to have to tell the family, I did. I told them exactly what happened to him. To see it crush all of them again, as if hearing the news enough wasn't enough. I hated that day. I miss him. I miss him a lot. Even waking up the next morning, the very first thing we all did was cry. Out of my bed, before I could even get to the shower, cried. I cried because I felt like I had no arm, like I was missing a part of my body. And I didn't know how I was going to get in front of the family, in front of our team, without an arm and lead them. But when you take a position like this, which is another thing that I've learned coaching a team of this caliber, you don't get to cry anymore. You don't get to be sad. That's the hardest job of all. And I think that today will mark probably the first time since he has passed away that I've cried like this.
I'm moving to San Diego to cheerlead, you know, I hit the road.
And I said, "What's going on, Kenrod? I'm in warm-ups right now, Frenzy." And he sounded frantic, and he just said, "Anna was in a car accident." Are you okay?
It takes your biggest words
It's competition,
and make them small.
When you tell them one at a time and watch each reaction, watching all of them like crying,
Conquers all.
it'll haunt me for the rest of my
Don't
life.
be sad, my sweet darling, 'cause love will conquer all.
From that day on, he was gonna be our one.
Love conquers all. It takes our biggest worries and make them small. Yes, love conquers all. We'll meet again, my sweet darling, 'cause love conquers
idol. It's not going to happen.
I'm really hungry. Sorry.
I mean, do you have anything else? I think that covers all the bases. That was perfect. I covered a lot of things that I needed.
Felt good to cry.
Yeah, I could tell. Or I could tell, like, it you know,
I haven't cried. I can't remember the last time I cried like that.
it's like releasing, huh?
Yeah, that's therapy.